So everything from here, I'm going to be reading excerpts from his book, Fire in the Sky. And everything in here is run by Travis for accuracy. It's said that these provide the most accurate, complete, and up-to-date information related to his abduction. So here's the story of Travis Walton. He's a lumberjack. Him and several others of his colleagues are driving home from the forest when they see a strange light.
For reference, we're in the 70s, right?
Yeah,
it's the
1975,
70,
Arizona.
74, 5, yeah.
So they're in Arizona. They're driving back from the end of the day of work. They see a strange light in the sky and happen upon a flying saucer. His writing is very descriptive, very dramatic. To give you a little taste, here's a line from it. The sound of the saws died, the final echoes absorbed into the deepening dusk. So they finish for the day, pack up, cram into a truck. There's like, I think 6 or 7 of them in there. They're driving down the road. They see the strange light. Next thing they see is a saucer hovering a few yards off the ground. So they stop and look. And Travis is the only one to get out, and he approaches the thing. So here we have the sighting.
Is this is what you're reading from? Like, okay, so you're pulling up strips, but is it like a dramatic interpretation? Like, totally. When was this written? Like years after, do you think?
I could look up will you look up the date while I read? But
yeah, you don't have to. It feels like he's told this story so many times that he's been able to slowly build this dramatic scene. But keep going. Sorry.
I mean, we'll talk about it after, but
while JJ loves to discredit that and already make it sound dramatic, he's pulling this from nonfiction. For reference, there are 7 other witnesses that experienced this, and under police enforced polygraph tests, all passed by saying they were telling the truth when recalling this story that he is also telling.
Sorry, I won't interrupt.
So we will get to all of this by the end, and we'll have a discussion on the credibility. But yes, I mean, this whole time I'm remaining very skeptical, and one of the first things I noticed was how descriptive and painting a picture it was. Mm-hmm. It felt too descriptive. But hey, let me get into it. I'll let you all judge. So here's an excerpt from the book. This is from the sighting. Travis, get away from there, Mike yelled to me. I shot a fleeting look at the pickup parked in the road, then turned my attention back to studying the incredible ship. Suddenly, I was startled by a powerful, thunderous swell and the volume of the vibrations from the craft. I jumped at the sound, like that of a multitude of turbine generators starting up. I saw the saucer start wobbling on its axis with a quickening motion, in a pattern like the erratic spin of an unstabilized top. The same side continued to face me as the craft remained hovering at approximately the same height while it wobbled. I ducked into a crouch when a tremendously bright blue-green ray shot from the bottom of the craft. I saw and heard nothing. All I felt was the numbing force of a blow that felt like high-voltage electrocution. The intense bolt made a sharp cracking or popping sound. The stunning concussion of the foot-wide beam struck me full in the head and chest. My mind sank quickly into unfeeling blackness. I didn't even see what hit me, but from the instant I felt that paralyzing blow, I did not see, hear, or feel anything more. Best night of my life. It was at that moment that his buddies all drove away. They just left him there. They're like, I'm not, this is too sketchy. I don't know what this is. I'm leaving.
I'm out.
Did they go to the police?
No. So they drove down further to the road to like gather themselves. And they're like,
we got to go back.
Some of us want to go back. The others, like, we'll light a fire for you and come back in an hour or something. Which, I mean, fair enough. Like, if I saw a flying saucer zap a friend, I'd be like, I don't want to touch that. Like,
I don't even know why he went towards it in the first place.
Right, exactly. And he's the only one. So here we have the encounter. him face to face with aliens. So he wakes up on a table under light, like that generic story of tabletop aliens.
Shadows leaning over you.
Yeah. Excerpt from the book. I sprang into a fighting stance with my legs spread wide to brace for the attack. I lashed out with the weapon at the advancing creatures. He like grabs just something off a table. Screaming desperate, hysterical threats. The creatures slowed but continued toward me, their hands outstretched. Keep back, damn you, I shrieked menacingly. They halted. In a snarling crouch, I held the tube threateningly back behind my head. I felt hopelessly trapped. I was surrounded, with my back to the wall. They stood still, mutely. They were a little under 5 feet in height. They had a basic humanoid form, 2 legs, 2 arms, hands with 5 digits each, and a head with the normal human arrangements of features. But beyond the outline, any similarity to humans was terrifyingly absent. He kind of like rips into them, just calling them like weird and infantile looking. Their thin bones were covered with white marshmallow looking flesh. They had on single piece coverall type suits made of soft suede like material, orangish brown in color. I could not see any grain in the material such as cloth has. In fact, their clothes did not appear even to have any seams. I saw no buttons, zippers, or snaps. They wore no belts. The loose, billowy garments were gathered at the wrists and perhaps the ankles. They didn't have any kind of raised collar at the neck. They wore simple pinkish tan footwear. I could not make out the details of their shoes, but they had very small feet, about a size 4 by our measure. When they extended their hands toward me, I noticed they had no fingernails. Their hands were small, delicate, without hair. Their thin, round fingernails looked soft and unwrinkled. Their smooth skin was so pale that it looked chalky, like ivory. Their bald heads were disproportionately large for their puny bodies. It's like rips into the bald,
puny bodies. Clearly didn't have a membership at Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness, good one. They had bulging, oversized craniums, a small jaw structure, and an underdeveloped appearance to their features that was almost infantile. Their thin-lipped mouths were narrow. I saw them open. Lying close to their... I never saw them open. Lying close to their heads on either side were tiny, crinkled lobes of ears. Their miniature, rounded nose had small, oval nostrils. Only facial feature that didn't appear undeveloped were those incredible eyes. Those glistening orbs and brown irises twice the size of those of a normal human's eyes. Nearly an inch in diameter, the iris was so large that even parts of the pupils were hidden by the lids, giving the eyes a certain cat-like appearance. There was very little of the white part of the eye showing. They had no lashes and no eyebrows. So what do y'all think of that? That is a lot of description for pretty traumatic experience of witnessing aliens.
Cheek, I wish this is one of those moments where I wish you were in studio so we could rock, paper, scissors who gets to go first, because I'm anxious, but you go.
I don't want to say anything yet. I want Eli to finish the tale of Travis Walton, unless you really want to already try and disprove an innocent man's story.
Well, he's he's asking for our feedback.
It's unbelievable how you are both on a side already.
I love it. That's exactly how I wanted this to go.
All right, I'll continue.
Okay, I think.
You want me to finish or you want to go?
Actually, yeah, you finish. I like that. If JJ is okay with that, I like that.
Okay. So to end up with, that was the encounter. Now we have the return. So just as I girded myself to spring at them, they abruptly turned and scurried from the room. They went out the open door, turned right, and disappeared. The anticlimax of the retreat was incredible. The extra adrenaline that had squirted into my bloodstream. The adrenaline that squirted into my bloodstream left me trembling uncontrollably. I collapsed back against the bench, struggling to slow my racing heart. I gulped the heavy air in ragged gasps. There was a curving hallway about 3 feet wide outside the door. The ceiling of the hall gave off a faint, almost unnoticeable illumination. So he gets into the control room, like the center of the saucer, janks around with the controls, then realizes, hey, I probably shouldn't be pressing random buttons. So he stops that, and then he sees a human standing in the doorway. So this human is tall and muscular. It's wearing a blue suit. Again, no insignia or anything. Black band around the waist and boots. So Travis tries talking to him, but gets no answer. The man takes Travis by the arm and brings him into a room where they wait for a minute. And then a door opens and he's taken out of the craft. And they're not outside. They're in a giant room. And this is kind of like an alien docking bay, I guess. He describes it as, I was in a huge room. The ceiling was sectioned into alternating rectangles of dark metal and those that gave off light. The ceiling itself curved down to form one of the larger walls in the room. The room was shaped like 1/4 of a cylinder laid on its side. He sees a couple other ships. That's why I think it's like a docking bay or whatever. All he describes is a couple other ships in the room. So it's like this whole time, his description is very minimalist. So take that how you will, but like he doesn't describe, boxes and like equipment everywhere. It's all like when he woke up on the table, there was just a few instruments that were small. In the control room, there's a control room.
But he notices their clothes and their...
Right. So like he's obviously paying very close attention to all this detail.
Mm-hmm.
So the room was shaped like a 1/4 cylinder laid on its side. He sees a couple other ships, and then he's led by this human man into a new room. And in there are 2 men and a woman, or a man and a woman. I don't know if I typed that right. Were standing around at a table. They were also wearing velvety blue uniforms, except they had no helmets. I guess the first guy had a helmet. And these humans are very muscular, like, what do you call them? Like the Vitruvian man and woman. They have smooth skin, no blemishes, no moles, freckles, wrinkles, or scars, and striking good looks of the man I had first met. The striking good looks of the man I had first met became more obvious on seeing them all together. They shared a family-like resemblance, although they were not identical. Silently, they took me by an arm and led me toward the table. I didn't know why I should cooperate with them. They wouldn't even tell me anything, but I was in no position to argue, so I went along at first. They lifted me easily onto the edge of the table, became wary, and started protesting. Wait a minute. Tell me what you're going to do. I began to resist them, but all 3 began pushing me gently backward down onto the table. I looked up at the ceiling, covered with panels of softly glowing white light with a faint blue cast. I saw that the woman suddenly had an object in her hand from out of nowhere. It looked like one of those clear, soft plastic oxygen masks, only there were no tubes connected to it. The only thing attached to it was a small black golf ball-sized sphere. She pressed the mask down over my mouth and nose. I started to reach up to pull it away. Before I could complete the motion, I rapidly became weak. Everything started turning gray. Then there was nothing at all but black oblivion. And from there, he wakes up on the pavement in the street, like something like 30 miles from his original location, and sees a light, and this saucer flies away, and he goes to a phone booth, calls someone to pick him up, and he's been missing for 5 days. And that is the story of the most renowned alien abduction story by Travis Walton.
Wow.
Well done. Well done.
Self applause. I'm lost in thought. Chi, go ahead.
So, for reference, I haven't visited that website. My information from the Travis Walton story came from listening to another podcast, the JRE. He interviewed him for a couple hours.
Yeah.
I listened to Walton tell his story himself on the JRE. There are quite a few differences to him telling it than this book, and I have a couple of theories there, certainly, that I would love to address after JJ points them out and tells me why they are fake.
Well, I listened to part of my coverage was I read this. I got halfway through and I was like, this is far too theatrical. Like this,
you actually read his website.
Yeah. I feel like my initial thought was he hired someone to help him write this, like more poetically. And it was almost like, I'm not even getting the accurate version of his story, you know? So then I went to, let me just pour a little more of this slurp juice from Mars. Do you want some?
I'm good.
All right. And so then I went and watched parts of the Joe Rogan Experience, and he adds some details in there. And I listened to some other.
He leaves out a lot too.
He leaves out a lot of that too. I don't think he gave like the full review of what he saw. I think he's given fuller accounts before, and he looked really nervous on the Joe Rogan one. He didn't make eye contact with Joe like one time the whole time. So, I mean, that could be 1,000 different things. I'm just saying, I think he didn't give the full color rundown to Joe. But I've seen a couple different accounts where the thing that disturbs me, the thing that throws me off the most is that he sees all these human type people who, by the way, are almost, the way he describes them, are almost exactly like the First Man drawings from like early, like 1960s cartoons, which a lot of people credit alien depictions to. So there's the two things people accredit. The first time we ever see the gray alien is in War of the Worlds, and it's not the main aliens, but it's actually their pets, because the main aliens look like big tentacle squid things, but their pets are these gray, big-headed, no pupil, like all pupil eye things. And ever since then, almost every sighting has included that exact description, which is a little spooky to me, or a little suspect to me, I should say. And then later on, there's this humanoid depiction, and a lot of people think that the humanoids come up a lot because, first of all, in movies they were cheaper to produce, so they didn't have CGI back then, so it was easier just to have a human from Mars or whatever. But they'd like give them an outfit. So that the way he describes those people, like the blonde, super good looking, all very similar looks, and he's describing them down to their skin and the fabric bunching and the cotton makeup of their clothes. And to me, some of that's not only in his website account, but that's other places where he talks about it too. And to me, that's a little suspect. When someone over describes something, that kind of throws off a red flag to me.
He over describes some areas and under describes other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine if you were mugged or something, I wouldn't even be able to recall the height. Like, I never notice people's eye color, all that. This is just like an average lumberjack dude, and he's got this heightened ability to recount all this information after getting like zapped by some electrical thing and left on the ground. And on top of that, he is going through like a traumatic, like fight or flight mode. And he's able to recount all this.